Now, you guys know that one of the biggest pieces of drama going on around the world of movies and cinema for quite some time has been the whole thing with the Snyder Cut, right? A lot of people insisted for a long time that a finished, completed version of the Snyder Cut was just sitting there waiting to be released, which I told everybody for like a year and a half, couple of years. No, there's not. There's an edit, but there is no completed version of the Snyder Cut. Everybody kept insisting that there was. And then, of course, turns out there wasn't. And that's why they're spending 50, 60, 70, however many millions of dollars now to finish it and release it, which has a lot of people excited. It's going to come out on HBO Max next year, which a lot of people are very excited about. I, of course, will always be in the debt of Zack Snyder because he made Man of Steel, the most underrated comic book film of all time. But one of the questions that has been around and been talked about a lot over the last while is, okay, well, now that we know the Snyder Cut is coming to HBO Max, what implications does that have for, say, something like the DCEU? How does it fit into the DCEU? Does it fit into the DCEU in any way or at all? And that's so different people have had different thoughts. And a lot of people, most people seem to think it's not really going to be a part of the DCEU per se. Some people thought that it has been. We've all been speculating one way or the other. Well, Zack Snyder himself has come out and put that to bed. The Snyder Cut is not a part of the DCEU. Here's what Zack Snyder had to say. He said, for me, where the movie falls, it really starts to represent its own path. It's kind of separate now from what I would say the DC cinematic universe is in continuity. I think it's divergent in that way. And I think that's a good thing. The power of DC and one of its cool strengths is the sort of multiverse concept. They also put filmmakers first. And they say, we want to hear your individual voices. Take these characters and do a run. Show us what you would do in the great tradition of comic book writing and runs that have been done before with all of these amazing characters. So it seems that Zack Snyder is definitively coming out and saying, can't wait to do it, but it's actually not a part of the DCU. Now, this is important, Rob, because, you know, a lot of people will question, okay, well, what happens then with Wonder Woman 84? What if there's a contradiction between what happens in Justice League, the Snyder Cut version, versus what's happening in Aquaman 2, or what's happening in Wonder Woman 84, or whatever else comes along? And Zack Snyder says that's basically not an issue because the Snyderverse is really its own thing. It's not, the Snyderverse cut of Justice League is not a part of the DCU per se. So if we go into Wonder Woman 84 and we see the Snyder Cut version of Justice League and we see a massive contradiction, there's actually nothing worth worrying about because Zack Snyder said it's really not a part of the DCU. Rob, I don't think this really surprises anybody at this point, but did you think there was a chance they may have incorporated in the DCU, or have you always thought, yeah, this will be its own very unique standalone thing? How do you see it?
You know, I've always seen it as the conclusion. This whole thing is the conclusion of what I call in my headcanon, Zack Snyder's Man of Steel trilogy. Because the same way that Christopher Nolan has his Batman trilogy that's in its own continuity, while they have spun off things from Zack Snyder's continuity, like the Affleck Batman or things like that, Wonder Woman, obviously, Aquaman. I think that these three movies together will stand as his trilogy, where the things that he planted have grown into a DCEU, because obviously Aquaman and Wonder Woman are ongoing concerns, Shazam. But I like that we're going to finally get this conclusion to what Zack Snyder's doing. And it would not surprise me at all if he goes back and maybe sprinkles things in, if he does new versions of Man of Steel. And he hasn't announced this. It's just a theory. But putting things in Man of Steel and Batman v Superman that might have been extracted and not put in, and to make it work as a standalone trilogy, because they're doing the work anyway. So why not do that? Now, I'm not saying he's going to, but I could definitely see them putting stuff in, and it would stand alone then as Zack Snyder's definitive Man of Steel trilogy. And I only say that because it began with Man of Steel, but it also is the Superman's beginnings, his origins, his early death, and his resurrection leads to the Superman that we all know and love. and it leaves Henry Cavill, if he is going to come back, a place to start. And if anybody wants to go back and go, where do you think Superman came from? Zack Snyder's trilogy would stand as an example of where Superman himself was forged. Because, John, everyone's always going, well, in Man of Steel, Superman doesn't act like the Superman we know and love. Yeah, because he's not that Superman we know and love. He had to live for a few days as Superman and then die, be resurrected, and then he can become the Superman we all know and love. But I'm looking forward to it. I think it doesn't have to be part of the DCEU. I can't wait to see his version of it, and I hope that all three films stand as a definitive trilogy of some kind, something unique we've never seen before.
All right, guys, the question for you now is, what do you think about all this? How do you think, are you surprised that they decided to do this? Did you think that maybe they would do some sort of, tie-in, that it would become now the definitive part of it? Jump down into the comment section below and let me know your thoughts. All right, guys.